Hey peeps, welcome back to my channel and to our final episode of our server-side Swift using Vapor CRUD series. In this episode, we are going to learn how to update data from our database, more specifically, how to edit an idea we have. And so in our final result, we can see we have added buttons. And once we click, for example, for Thanos AR Gauntlet, the edit button, we will be redirected to an edit page with an input field that is populated with the description of the idea. And we can just say, let's say new idea, save that, and it is updated. We will be redirected to our list again and presented with the idea with an updated description. So even if we edit the other one too and hit enter, it just works. Let's dive right into the implementation. And the first thing I want to do is introduce the edit button. So let's create an idea so we can see it. We don't have an edit button yet, and it's going to be a link that points to /edit/ and then the ID of the idea, right? Let's add some Bootstrap classes as well. Let's use primary, and then so it's blue, and then also button small, close the A tag, and let's use the FontAwesome class FA pen, so we have a pen as the edit button. Refresh, there we go. As simple as that. Once we click that edit button, we will be presented with not found because we haven't handled the URL request get at the URL /edit/dynamic value, right? So let's do that. We go into our routes.swift file, and what we want to do is actually return a view that will have an input field with the populated idea, which means we will have to define a router get @/edit and then dynamic value, right? Or dynamic part of the URL, as we have learned in the former episode. And we've also learned that we can let Vapor do the work of fetching the idea we want to actually update, or actually no, not update, but yeah, present or put into our view, edit view, to later on update it. So we can let Vapor do the work for us to get the idea out of the database. So we will return the result of trying to get from the request parameters next the idea.self. And since this one is returning a future of idea, let's access the idea value by mapping it into, and now we want to create a new struct, which is an edit context. And we have learned in the leaf templating series why we use that kind of context struct definition. And so in here we can create a variable, call it context, make an instance of edit context, and pass in the idea like that. Ultimately, or finally, we will return a try of request view and then render the edit view we don't have yet, right? And pass in the context. Now this one will return a future. That's why we have to update our map into a flat map, and also tell Xcode what we are going to return, because otherwise it's just confused. And now it should just compile and run. However, since we don't have a leaf file that is called edit.leaf, this view will say, well, first of all, it will not find a model because we have rerun the project. Our database is wiped. We can just create a new idea, try to edit it, and it will say no file found at the path idea.leaf right inside the views. So let's use the welcome.leaf, edit that one, and then refresh, and it works. It will serve you with that file. Now we can continue and update that file to actually show us the input field we want with the populated description of the idea we are about to edit, right? So let's have a container wrapper, and in here we want to have a form that is having a method of post, because we are going to update the idea in the input field, and then we are going to send the data to the backend. And since form is only capable of post and get methods, and get is not capable of sending data to the backend, we are going to use post. Action is going to be /edit/ and then the ideas.id. Now we can say we are closing the form, and inside here we want to create a new div of class with a class of input group, because I would like to have an input with a button sticked next to it, right? And so let's define our input. That's going to be of type text with the value of idea.description, right? Because we want this input to be populated with the description of the idea. We want the name to be equal description. And then we also want to have the class form control so it looks nice. Close the input and we can refresh already and see if it works. It works. We have Digimon here, we have the input field, but it does not look that nice. We are missing the Idea Machine title. We can fix that by going into list, cut this one out, not copy. We are cutting this one out. We don't want to duplicate our code. We want to go to base, and right above where the content is actually rendered, right? This is the list, a place where the list would be rendered. Our edit views would be rendered, because we're setting the body value to this kind of HTML, right? We've learned that in leaf templating as well, how this one works. And if we refresh, we have Idea Machine here. And even if we go back to the index, we have still Idea Machine. So let's go to the edit page again and add our save button next to it. Now, since we are inside an input group, we can use div class input group append to append something after our input, which is going to be a button, which is going to be an input of type submit, so that when we click that, it will automatically send the form to our backend, right, at this URL as a post request. So let's use the value save for that input, and then let's also have the class button, and then success, for example, and that's it. Let's refresh and see. Nice, that looks good. Once we click that, we will get not found again, because now we are sending a post request to the same URL we have used before to send a GET request to render that view. And so sending a GET request, which we are doing with the browser up here, will render that view, but sending a post request will result into not found. Those are two different requests at the same URL. We will have to handle both separately. And so we are saying here we're rendering the view when it's fired with a GET request at the URL /edit/dynamic value. However, we will have to define a router.post request at the same URL with the dynamic value. To then, what we want to do then is update our idea, save it to the database with the updated description, and return or actually redirect to our list again, right? So let's do that. So the first thing we want to do is let Vapor do the work for us by fetching the original idea out of the database. So let's return the try of request parameters dot next idea.self. We have whoops, unintended resizing. We have the original idea here as a future. Let's map it so we get the actual value of the original idea. And now we want to get the content. Actually, we want to get an instance of an idea based on a content that we sent in with the form, right? And so we have learned in the first episode, I think, when we create an idea, how to get the content out of a form and decode it into an instance of an idea. So we are going to return the result of trying from the request the content, decoding into an instance of idea. And since this one is a future as well, we should map it in order to get the actual value, which is then the edited idea. And now we have access to idea and edited idea. The idea itself is the original idea from the database, and we want to override its description with the edited idea, which is the instance of an idea based on the content sent at the backend through that form, right? So this description is going to be the new description that we want to assign to our original idea. And then we want to say, let's return the result of saving the original idea, which will have the updated description, right, on the back of the request. Let's save that. And since this save call will return a future of the idea that we're just about to save, we can map that result of saving into idea, we were passing, well, actually we receive idea in here, right? The resulting idea, although we don't really use that because we want to, as a result of saving it, we want to return a redirect to the index, right? And so now Xcode is kind of complaining because I didn't fix all the maps. I always start with map, and afterwards I will fix them into flat map when needed. So this one does not return a future. That's why map is fine. But this whole call here is returning future. That's why we have to use flat map up here. And now this whole call is also returning a future. That's why we have to use flat map up here. And it will still complain about the return type because it cannot, it's just too ambiguous. And so we are returning ultimately a future of response, since redirect, jump to definition, whoops, not scroll up, but actually jump to definition right here. It is returning a response, right? And a map is wrapping whatever is returned inside the closure afterwards. It is wrapping that one into a future. So this whole thing is returning a future of response. Flat map is leaving the future that got returned inside the closure as is. So that's why this whole thing is returning the future of response. Again, a flat map. So future of response. Let's define future of response. Run the app, and our Xcode does not complain anymore. Let's try. Let's give it a run. So we are creating a new idea. Let's say Digimon. Create. Let's go to our edit page. Let's say Digimon Season 4. Save. And we get redirected to our list and we have the updated idea. And it works. And that's it. That's the episode. That's actually the whole series. You've learned how to create, read, update, and delete data from a database. You can help me out by hitting like. Check out the description box to check out the merch, and also Patreon to download every source code of every video I ever do, and also to support me doing YouTube full-time if you want to. Leave a comment if you have any feedback of any kind. Hit subscribe to not miss out on future episodes and series regarding iOS and Vapor development. I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.